So for our final session, it is my privilege to introduce Pietro Scalia, ACE. So Pietro is a multiple Oscar, BAFTA, and Eddie nominee and winner, who's worked with many leading directors on some of this generation's most impactful films. He started his career as an assistant editor to Oliver Stone, which brought him to JFK and his first Oscar.
I'm deeply honored. Making a movie with Oliver Stone is like going to battle, and JFK was a battle that we all won. Thank you, Oliver. I'm very proud to have been a part in fulfilling your vision.
His body of work includes Stealing Beauty with Bernardo Bertolucci, Memoirs of a Geisha with Rob Marshall, and his Oscar-nominated Good Will Hunting with director Gus Van Sant. And he's perhaps best known for his longtime collaboration with Ridley Scott for films such as The Martian, his Oscar-nominated Gladiator, and Oscar-winning Black Hawk Down.
The Oscar goes to Pietro Scalia for Black Hawk Down.
This is unbelievable. Thank you, members of the Academy, for honoring Black Hawk Down and my fellow editors and nominees tonight.
So it would take weeks to delve into all of Pietro's work. So in the interest of time, we're going to choose to talk about a few themes of the editorial process. Well, we're going to start with 1991's Oliver Stone directed JFK.
Yes, I just want to say, again, the opening sequence of JFK is a title sequence, a prologue, but I approached it like an opening movement in a symphony, but it also had different parts to it. Initially, it was very, very long, and it had to be reduced. But you can see that if you know the film, it is structured into three different parts. The initial part is all stock footage documentary that explains the rise of JFK and his campaign and how he became president. And the last part, the clip I'm going to show you, is really just visuals, no more narrations. It's simply the ride from the airport through downtown Dallas all the way up to Dealey Plaza. And it was important to experience that drive and experience the connection between JFK and the crowds and how they loved him. And there are specific things that you should look for is when there are when the crowd is looking into the camera and makes eye contact with the viewer. You're actually making eye contact. We said never look in the camera, but it's a very powerful image. And cutting that to JFK and the adoration that he had, it creates an immediate bond between, obviously, the crowd and JFK. But specifically, the last part of the title sequence was to start introducing elements, like in any opening movement, notes and sounds and music that will repeat themselves later on. But the most important thing was to bring the viewer down to Dealey Plaza at that moment of the assassination. And it ends with really the images of Zapruder film, which is the key seed for the entire film. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, here's that opening. I just want to say one thing is that this opening came together because of the drums. So. The whole sequence really didn't come together until I found this piece of music, and through the research I knew that JFK liked Scottish marching bands. And so when I heard the snare drums, it really tied in with the ideas that Oliver had about this being a coup d'etat and the actual firing and machine gun sounds of those drums. When we played the scene for John Williams, he loved them as well, and he incorporated his music underneath it. The title sequence, the opening of JFK also starts with the drums. So it's ideas that generate other ideas and inspire other people that work on the film to bring everything together as a whole. Even the sound designers loved the drums and liked the rhythm of the images, that they incorporated the sound of the Harleys underneath it. And you can see it. It's all built on sound and visuals in order to give you that sense of that what happened that day. And if you see the whole opening, it's really starting with JFK and what led him to this assassination. I mean, you just have to watch it. What everybody else says, just watch it. It's an awful image, but it's a historic document about how a president killed. I mean, actually seeing somebody killed on film. I mean, they don't show that, you know.
So we're going to move on to Gladiator, which was Ridley Scott's 2000 film, which won 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, and earned a nomination for editing. We could have chosen some of the film's signature scenes in the Colosseum, but instead we decided on the opening scene, which begins with a poetic image of the hand in the wheat field. And that was a strong image that you chose to use, not just in the opening, but during the course of the film. Would you explain that theme?
Yeah, I mean, I came upon this image really late because it was last images, actually last day of shoot that I got it. It was shot in Tuscany, and it was material that really wanted to show Maximus' afterlife when he joins his family after his death. At the same time, I always feel that the first image, how you open a film, is very, very strong. That first image, that first thing you see is full of expectation. When you go in the movie theater, it's how does it open up, right? That's the one thing you look forward to. And then obviously the last image. But the first image is the one, is a virgin image in the sense that nothing precedes it. I wish it wouldn't have the trailers, but if you could just imagine that you come to the theater and you imagine this, you see this image, you bring everything, all your expectation to it. And your interpretation, going back to watching dailies, is what you bring to that image. And this image is poetic because it evokes a lot of different feelings. And whatever feelings you get from it are good, because the simplicity of it, it was the simplicity of the cutting to the close-up of Russell Crowe in the film, how we initially started the movie, gives context to that image. And the context, and you later discover, is a theme that carries throughout the film. In a sense, starting a movie with your hero, a close-up of your star, is a great way to immediately make the audience identify with your main character. You can see Russell Crowe in deep thought, and then we pull out, and he's a general, tired, in the middle of a battlefield, and we expand from him. He's at the center of this world. However, by placing the image of the hand before the close-up, everything you've experienced it, now you connect to that character, and you can see that it's an internal image. It's either a memory or a desire or some premonition about something. It doesn't matter. You own that image for yourself, and you also come to understand that the whole movie, the whole story of Maximus as a gladiator, as a hero, like any hero's journey in classical terms, is an internal journey. It's a journey of the hero transforming himself internally, not obviously from outside forces, but that was the key for me and for Ridley to tell the story. Every decision we made was about this internal drive of the hero. It's a simplistic story in some sense. I mean, it's basically a man who wants to, the story of a man wanting to go back home, wanting to be with his family. But that those choices of having the internal motivation and coming to realizing later on that it was a premonition about the afterlife is also relates to how Romans felt about afterlife. That the afterlife was more important than life. Death was way more important than what happened after death. So our choices about music, how we tell and structure the scene based on this simple fact that the hero's journey is an internal journey of transformation. So I felt that with a simple stroke, and that's, I think, goes back to the power of editing, of really the simplistic thing of what editing is that one image put next to another one creates something new. And how you bring, what you bring as a viewer is just as important as what's on the screen. And so that that connection is, you can't get more simple than that in terms of condensing. I mean, for me, or expressed for me in a poetic way, a theme.
How do you begin to build that scene? What is your approach?
Well, it starts, very early on when when I read the script and you get a sense of what the scene is about, and I usually make notes in the script. So when I get the material from the previous day, it's one of the best moments, seeing the actual footage, coming to life and having it in front of you. And what I do is my initial viewing, after the assistants have put the material together, is to make mental notes of what I react to, kind of instinctual, things that I like about the material, performances, and those first impressions are key for me. So I don't immediately build a scene. I wait till I have all the material, so sometimes scenes take more than a day to get it. But I start assembling it, or at least choosing the takes that I like. After I screen the dailies with Ridley, I get some more input. But before I actually start building it, I read the script one more time, the page, just to get that sense of the initial impressions that I had. And then when I start building it, and usually, I watch the material first, obviously, the dailies one more time, and then I start building it. But the building, I want to do it rather quickly. It's like doing large brush strokes to get the shape right, or at least the pieces. I don't spend too much time in the minute little bits and pieces. I find the connections in the performances, and I think that the hardest part is always that first step, which the first two steps. Once you get those in place, then just build on off of that.
So I'm going to turn this over to Jenny in a second to wrap up the day, but before I do so, this was great. Please
welcome.
join me in thanking Pietro.
Thank you very much. Thank you.